Welcome to the Real Estate PB&J Hour on Money Talk 1310 and 100.9 FM. Rose and Womble Realtor Paul Fuqua is here to share market facts, the fundamentals of selling, buying, owning, and improving your home, plus interesting experts. Now, here is Paul.
Good afternoon, folks. Welcome to the Real Estate PB&J Hour. Today we're going to review very quickly the discussion we've had over the past week and 2 weeks on why a buyer or seller of real estate should always consider using the services of a realtor. One, because that's how I pay my bills, so would like you to hire me.
That's not the only reason, Paul.
Well, it's my reason.
It's your show. Right?
I know. But today, with me today is once again the wonderful Kim Pimento, who's the managing broker of the Greenbrier office of Rose and Womble Realty, where I happen to have my office and have had for almost a quarter of a century. I'm ensconced in there. I've got the little corner office right there by the 18th green of the Greenbrier Country Club. And, when I played a lot of golf, many times I would be in the office and then I'd be out on the golf course and wonder that. Anyway, today we're going to concentrate on the elements of a property which an appraiser and your real estate agent in helping set prices, if you put it on the market, what they use to set values on a property in comparison to the comparable houses in your neighborhood. We really are running this show to dispel the many myths and misstatements which seem to filter into almost any discussion of real estate. At the back fence, at cocktail parties, or during kids' soccer games, or in the stands at a football game. And I know that my son was a baseball player, and many was the time that we'd be in the stands at a game, and someone would sidle up and say, "Paul, what's going on with the market right now?" And, blah, 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 blah. And you know, it was very difficult to carry on an intelligent conversation, which is difficult for me in the first place at any time, but especially when I was zeroed in on watching my kid perform. That's personal. We'll move on. The purpose of this show is not to talk about Paul Fuqua, but to share real estate news, advice, and experience to help you as a consumer, as a homeowner or a potential homeowner, help you make sound decisions on one of the biggest investments you'll likely ever make, your home. I know any number of people who have pyramided their homes over a period of 10 to 15 years, and they've been successful in increasing the value, capitalizing on it, and moving to something that was more in keeping with their dream property. I am Paul Fuqua. I'm a full-time professional realtor with Rose and Womble Realty, which has, I think, Kim, how many offices does Rose and Womble have? It's 13 now?
Something like that. You know, that you put me on the spot. Now I'm trying to calculate.
Well, you run the most successful ones.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, but anyway,
the best location, I think.
It's centrally located, right there off Greenbrier Parkway near the Greenbrier Mall. It's 20 minutes from every place. Kim is the managing broker of that office. Now, last week we took great pains to discuss. Last 2 weeks to discuss why a buyer or seller should consider at great length using a realtor while they're going through the process of a real estate transaction. And this is an hour that concentrates on the fundamentals of real estate and what you can do to maximize your ownership and buying and selling power. If you'd like to talk to us, right here on the air, 757-497-1310, 757-497-1310. My 24-hour line at Paul Fuqua is 757-449-7463, and email is psfuqua@AOL. I'm old school. I even remember dial-up. And I paid for AOL service. But you can call in here, 757-497-1310.
Please call. I'd love to. It would be fun to have a conversation.
Yeah, please do. I know 2 weeks ago, one of our normal guests, Bob Freck, he couldn't stand being off the show and called in. I understand he's up in the Shenandoah Valley enjoying himself. Anyway, we want to make it relaxed, and we want to offer opinions and experiences that help you. And if we really can do more when someone is willing to query us. One of the things we do every week is we talk about the market forces. Mm-hmm. We talk about what's happening. And Kim is going to share some of the statistics of the housing market and what is seen by the prognosticators of what's going on nationally. And then we'll talk about local. Okay. Kim, it's all yours.
All All right, well, let's start with the rates. Non-conforming, and by the way, they've changed since yesterday. So these are rates that came on today. Non-conforming, 6.25% with paying 1 point. Conforming, 30-year, 6.625%, paying 2 points. Conforming investment, 7.125%, paying 2.875 points. That's a little bit of a stinger. With that's of course 25% down, and reserves in the bank after you pay all that. FHA, 6.625%, paying 1 point, and VA, 6.125%, paying 2 points.
Right.
Yeah, so that's just a little bit of change from yesterday. Just the rates are so volatile. I mean, there's really not a lot nationally. We don't get our new stats for September until about October 18th, 20th, or something like that. So the biggest news is still the pending home sales, weighing for the third consecutive month, down about 2% from July. Our prices are kind of stabilizing, but the demand is still out there. There's not a lot on the market. We still have people out there needing to live somewhere. Rents are rising. I mean, there's not a lot of change right now.
No, but I think some of this we have to chalk up to it being seasonal. Now, I've been in this business long enough to know that once you get past the late July and into August, that's when the doldrums tends to set in, because the school year is going to begin end of August. You got Labor Day, and then you see people coming back on the market and homes coming back on the market for a little spot of time, and then it dies off again. This is a seasonal lull.
Right.
I'm not,
because we sell more from March, April, May, June, and then we close more, July, August, September. But September was a slow month. It was for our office, and it was really for across the board.
Yes.
And I think school starting always brings a little bit of a lag in the market.
Yes, you see it. I see. You see it quite often at new home sites. I know when I had a couple of those. That lull in August was just deadly, and I know my builders and developers would say, well, what's going on? What are you doing? Why aren't you generating more people coming through? And I didn't have an answer for them. I always did more signs and more advertising, but it didn't change the fact that people just go through that end of the summer ennui.
Yeah, they either want to be in the house before the kids start, or then they'll start looking to be in there right after they start, so they can change schools real quick or rent in the area they want to rent.
Do you think in your discussions with your agents and with the people who come into the office that the negative coverage of the rates has an impact on the confidence that the consumer has in buying a home?
Oh, definitely, because everybody that I meet that's really not in the business always says, the market's crashing, I don't think it's crashing.
No.
I think we're stabling out a little bit. I think right now you can get a pretty good deal, actually. And if rates go up, let's buy now before the rates go up.
Yeah.
But you can really get a better deal right now. I like it better because you can negotiate a little bit more with the sellers, because it's becoming a buyer's market in a sense.
Well, we're still a long way from a buyer's market, because we right here in Hampton Roads, as of today, this morning, I pulled these off the computer at some god-awful time in the morning, and it just gotten light out, so most of you were already up and around, and I was in front of my computer. There are 3,859 actives. 3,859 active residential listings, of which 3,177 are single families. This is on the MLS, and
right. But this is my question. Even though we have that many actives on the market, and that's very low inventory for the amount of people that live in the Hampton Roads area, I agree with that. However, our buyers aren't buying. That's the thing. That's what makes our market is becoming. I'm not saying it is. It's becoming, in some houses, some areas, more of a buyer's market, because the buyers they've got cold feet. They're standing on that diving board thinking,
they don't want to make the plunge yet they're paying incredibly high and increasingly higher rents.
Right.
And what we've seen,
rents are just unbelievable.
Yeah, that's gone crazy. And in large part, that's a direct consequence of the institutional investors who've come into all major metropolitan areas that have a housing stock, and they're buying them up, rehabbing them quickly as cosmetic rehabs, and then putting them out in the rental market because they are income-producing assets.
Well, a house that I had when I was in the business not too long ago, I gave up to a colleague of mine in Rose and Womble, and I used to rent that house out. Is that way out in the country, out in Chesapeake? Couldn't get internet. Rented out for think we got like $1,700 and thought that was pretty good at the time. He just put that back on at $2,900.
What's the highest military
that's
allowance
a lot
now
of
with
money.
two
That's
officers?
a huge jump.
They're like, isn't it with two officers, married officers? Their military housing allowance somewhere close to $2,700.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, but that's not who's going to live out there. I mean, I don't know very many people are going to live way out in the country without internet service. I mean, you could get it, but it was expensive and spotty. Now it could have improved over the last couple of years. But that's how much people are wanting to live some places. It's just.
So if you are considering buying a house, the first thing we do is, as agents, we try and make certain you're in the hands of a qualified lender who knows what's going on and is going to move, if they need to, heaven and earth in order to help you qualify for a loan. Just realize that the house that was on the market a year ago at $395,000 may well be repriced today at $375,000.
Right. Or you get closing costs paid.
Yeah, we're not seeing that super aggressive pricing structures, or the super aggressive pricing structures we saw before, where you created a carnival.
Yeah,
atmosphere.
you can't look at the neighborhood that that one sold for $450. Let's go $460.
Yeah,
no, there's no more doing that anymore. You've got to be fair. Look to see, really do apples to apples and price it.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that in a little bit in terms of what appraisers use in terms of the valuation of a house. What elements carry weight?
Well, another thing that I think that buyers need to be aware of right now is everybody, we're all in business. We're all in business to make money. That's how the world, unfortunately, does go around. Let's be honest about it. You need to read those good faith estimates when you get those from these loan companies that say they're going to pay your closing costs, or you're going to get a nice little lower interest rate, because a lot of times in that fine print you'll find out they're charging you a lot of money to get those interest rates that low. So you really need to read and get several different lenders to give you opinions. Yep.
I know in my lifetime I have seen rates all over the place, and I'm not going to talk about the 80s when people were charging.
That's back
17.
then, Paul.
It is way back
moving forward.
But at the same time, we are shocked because rates are running over 5% and now over 6%. When in fact we're shocked because we've come out of this historically low rate period.
Right. It's just a shock.
And that's, I don't know that we'll ever see 2.5%, at least in my lifetime again. I think we'll be in the 4%, 3.5 to 4. But who knows?
That's where I kind of wish we would stabilize, somewhere between the 4.5, maybe pushing 4.75. But I think that way, I think both sides could live comfortably like that. But, banks can't lend money for free.
No. But remember, they're not doing you a favor. They're selling money.
They're making money. Yes.
They're selling money, just like lettuce. They are the supermarket of the financial industry.
Can I interrupt you? I found a quote that I love. I've read this.
Is this going to be the squirrel again?
No, not paved squirrel.
Tell it anyway. I want to hear it again. Come on.
I'll have to look the exact wording up. Then I'll bring that back next week. But this is another one that I love. This book called The Tao of Willie Nelson, and he had this quote, but it's actually Steve Martin who did the quote, and I love this. Before you criticize a man, walk a mile in his shoes. That way, when you do criticize him, you'll be a mile ahead, and you'll have his shoes.
I like that. That's almost as good. Yeah, it's not on the same level as the squirrel.
We're just talking about, so right now we're criticizing everything, our government, the feds, the rates, the housing market, the stock markets.
If you're not a football fan.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, the world is topsy-turvy with anyway. Okay. Let's move on to what's on the market right now. We're in good shape.
Okay.
We had 3,859 active residential listings as of this morning. Did I already do this? No, I started it, right?
Yeah, and then I interrupted you.
That's okay.
We talked about the active one. That's when I interrupted you, saying that I think even though that says that our inventory is low, our buyers aren't buying, which kind of puts a kink in that high demand that we might have.
But of that 3,859, 3,177 are single family, and 682 are attached, condos, co-ops, townhouses, anything with sharing a wall. And that's as of this morning. Now, last week our counts were 4,023. 3,311 single family and 720 attached. That's a decrease of 164, which is 4% decline.
But
that's big. But week to week.
Yeah, that is big. That's in 1 week. Yes. But again, remember, we are coming off of that school starting month. So, I would kind of expect this to happen right now.
But this, folks, is the reason why the prices aren't declining. There continues to be demand. We know that we can sell some, and we know that in the month of whatever month we've just come out of, what do we come of, September, as of today, the count on closed sales was 2,683. So we know we're doing not quite a one-to-one sale to new listing, but it's close.
Yeah.
And those...
Your houses are going to sell.
Yeah.
If that's... Yeah. I mean, I think sellers know their houses are going to sell. I mean, we're still in a less than 30-day market.
Yeah.
Most likely more around the 18-day mark. However, it's where are we going to go?
Right. Well,
that's the biggest thing for these people.
I have two that are coming on. In both instances, that problem is not raising its ugly head. They have places already, because they're relocating. And they're both in that sweet spot, that 350,000.
Yes.
Gosh, I can't wait to be able to do that. And the number of houses that are actually available out of the 3,859 is 3,050. 3,050 are available.
No, and that's not very many in an area this large. We're the largest area in Virginia, right?
I think, I don't know.
Is Hampton Roads? I think it might be. We'll have to look that up.
Yeah. Last week we closed to 676, and the total count for September is 2,683. And in August, closed sales was 2,939. July, 2,826, so we were consistent. June, 3,984. May, 3,339. April, 3,706. Now, we said it before, all these statistics are volatile, and they must be considered in that light. If you'd like to hear more, please call in at 757-497-1310. You're listening to the Real Estate PB&J Hour with Realtors Paul Fuqua and Kim. You're streaming live or on 1310 AM, 100.9 FM. We'll be right back to review last week's coverage of the objections folks have to using a realtor when buying a home, and we're going to look hard at the elements of monetary value of aspects of your home as used by appraisers and realtors alike. See you in a minute.
Now back to the Real Estate PB&J Hour on Money Talk 1310 and 100.9 FM. Rosenwomble Realtor Paul Fuqua gives you the fundamentals of real estate selling, buying, owning, and improving your home.
Okay, this is Paul Fuqua. Kim and I are here in the studio along with Dino, who is our tremendous and wonderfully talented producer. And as always, you can call in at 497-1310. Our station is 1310 AM and 100.9 FM. And then, of course, we're live streamed on moneytalk1310.com. Now, if you want to go back and check what we've said in the past, this is the 38th show. On YouTube, there is the Real Estate PB&J Hour. We'd love to have you look it up. You don't have to listen to all the stuff, but you can scan through.
Fast forward.
That's why I do that all the time, because I don't want to listen to myself. I'd rather listen to Kim. But what we're going to do now is we're going to step up and review some of the objections that we discussed last week, and we want to approach this very quickly. And these were the questions or statements that we've heard buyers use when they've decided that they are going to go it alone out there in the buying land. And I want Kim to chime in whenever, because we went through this before, but some of the things I've heard. One, I'll pay more when I buy a house because the seller has to pay your commission. Mm-hmm. So that's not true. As a matter of fact, the job of your agent is to negotiate on your behalf for the best financial situation that you can be placed in, regardless of commissions. The seller has made an agreement with his listing agent for the payment of commissions, and the seller's agent and his brokerage shares that commission with the buyer's agent. So the fact that there may be a commission involved doesn't change the dynamics of negotiating a price.
It doesn't always change the bottom line because that other listing agent may not agree to do it cheaper.
Right, exactly. I've bought houses before and didn't need a realtor. Everything worked out well. You got lucky.
And that can be true.
Yeah, it can be true, especially if it's a straightforward deal.
Or if it's I see a lot more of neighborhoods that are tight neighborhoods, and they just know that, oh, we have other friends that like to move in here. You're selling. Here's my friends.
Right.
That kind of thing.
And I've heard people say, well, it's basically a simple process. I've read up on it.
Until there's problems.
Well, I think the last contract I wrote, I think it was 35 pages. With all the disclosures that are required that the seller has to provide a buyer. The contract itself is 15 pages. The contingencies relating to HOA, Homeowners Association, or Condo Owners Association, or inspections, or any other elements, that's another 10 pages. So you're up to 25 pages, bing, and you're talking about a basic contract. So it's not that simple. It's what we're trained to do. So that's why you can call on a qualified realtor to assist you. It doesn't cost you anything. And then I know exactly what I want. I'll keep looking until I find it.
I don't understand why that really doesn't have anything to do with using a real estate agent, but maybe it does.
Well, today the real estate agent is more a font of knowledge than opening the doors, because you've got Zillow.
Let's talk about that right now, because I'm not so sure if what we can do is tell. We have some information that they don't have, maybe when they purchased it, how much they paid. But with the internet the way it is right now, they have a lot of knowledge before they come to us. What we can do is help them, number one, open the door, and then go in there and negotiate the best deal, know about the area, the location, what the houses are selling for. We can spot things that not quite right. We really need to check this out. So what we offer more is right in today's world is the negotiation, knowing if this is a good house. A lot of people, I think, will look at a house and think, oh, yeah, this is nice. It's got, oh, look at all these new floors. And their focus gets to be on just the way the house looks. And I think we can go deeper than that.
Yep. Well, it's our obligation to do so, representing.
And there's a lot of deals out there for these houses that people have owned, and they've taken awesome care of it, meaning when they did replace something, it was high-end, and they did it right with professional contractors. However, they didn't cosmetically keep it as appealing to the eye. Yep. And I think those are deals because they're in great shape. They just need some paint. They need, maybe
wallpaper.
Take that wallpaper. And that is a messy, hard job. Or scrape the popcorn off the ceiling. That's wallpaper, another one. You have to wet that stuff.
It's awful. But look, some people do not mind popcorn ceilings.
Right.
Some people love wallpaper.
Right.
If you're buying a period home, then the wallpaper is part and parcel of the era, if you want to maintain the era. I have had people who have bought older homes in downtown Norfolk, and they've loved the decor, despite the fact that it dates back to their grandparents or before.
They always say, oh, that's so sweet.
It's so quaint.
But I have a 1955 house, and I have the original 1955 hot point oven, stainless steel.
Wonderful.
Used to have a rotisserie in it. It still works. I still use it.
Right.
Now, I have to mess with the thermostat a little bit. And then I have the stovetop is probably a little bit older, maybe 65, but it's stainless steel with an electric cast iron griddle in the middle. Then I paid a lot of money to order a yellow refrigerator that looks like a 1955 Hot Point from Boulder, Colorado. It's got Whirlpool on the inside, but outside it's beautiful. It's a piece of art. And then I put flowered Formica on my countertops because I kept my knotty pine cabinets. But it's the brightest, prettiest room.
Lighting
in my
is
house.
the key.
Yeah.
Lighting is the key. You can
put recessed lighting in there, and you're golden.
The period correct house that is period correct when it's not lighted well.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the biggest drawback to these older houses. You put in enough lighting, especially with the low cost of LEDs today, to put them into the ceiling, it's amazing what a difference it makes.
Yes.
We have a 56 house, a little ranch, and fortunately the previous owner owned an electrical supply business, and he put lights everywhere. I've just gone through and replaced them all with LEDs. But it makes all the difference. It was a bonus. It's one of the reasons we bought the house. Plus, all the windows were done. Plus, the roof was done. Plus, it had that great garage with all that power out there. So I bought the garage. But anyway, some people have said I'll have my lawyer review the contract so I know everything's okay. Yeah. Why would I need an agent when I'm going to buy a new house? Why? What happens when you walk onto a new home site? You're talking to whom? You're talking to the site agent who represents
the builder.
Right.
Yeah,
and has no obligation to represent your financial best
And you can tell them tricks of how to negotiate with that builder that they probably don't know. Mm-hmm. And also that, you can have a home inspection and what you should be looking at and doing a lot of talking with the agent. Because a lot of time those site agents will talk with us much quicker and faster than they will the actual buyer.
Site agent will always ask you to sign in. And caution, folks, when you sign in, you have to indicate that you're represented. It can be by Paul Fuqua, it can be by Joe Schmo, whoever you'd like. Or you can just say you're represented. And then you are reserving the right to have an agent represent you in the process and make certain that the complexities of the contract, the complexities of the process are followed correctly. The site agent will keep you updated on progress and include your agent in the loop. Mm-hmm. But that agent is empowered by being your agent, not the site agent, your buyer's agent, to assist you in the process, especially as it relates to inspections, which are the norm for resale and not the norm for new construction.
Right.
That's important. But those are some of the things that we discussed last week. And for the remainder of the show today, what Kim and I would like to go over are those elements that are significant in terms of the value attributed to your house by the realtor who's helping you price it and or the appraiser after it's sold. Now, remember the role of an appraiser. We have had them on the show. An appraiser is there to protect the financial best interests of not you as the borrower, not the seller, but the bank who is lending you the money. They want to be certain that the values in the house, so that their loan-to-value ratio, whether it's 80% or 90% or 96.5%, which would be an FHA, that it matches, and that the house, if you were to default on your loan, would have sufficient equity in it and value in it that they would recover their dollars.
Yes.
If they don't, it's a short sale, and it becomes for them, and it becomes a significant issue. So,
yeah, we haven't seen a lot of short sales. I've negotiated quite a few of those. I've always just done it myself. I enjoy the phone calls and the negotiation process. But it just takes a lot of time for the agents to negotiate a short sale. But the one thing I liked about the short sales was they usually only took one contract at a time. Right. And that was nice. Where in the foreclosures, you were, up against numerous.
Well, we only have about 2%, I think 2 to 3%. 1% of our market today is distressed sales. Because in number one, there are so few properties on the market, people are holding on to it, and they're holding on for dear life if they're in financial situations that would preclude them from continuing their ownership. Right now, we anticipate there being an increase in those numbers.
Yeah, because something about the banks are holding some of their foreclosures
they
to
don't
release
want
them.
Exactly. But they did that previously when it was 30%. And 30%, people were out there buying phenomenal houses for very little money, but it was a carnival, and it was not a simple process.
Well, I don't think the forbearance is really going to affect us as much as people predicted, because I think a lot of people took those forbearances because they wanted to, not because they needed to, and they chose to maybe upgrade their home or pay off some bills.
we are not seeing, and we haven't seen for a number of years, the kind of crazy lending that created a big problem for homeowners, especially the seconds and the thirds, in order to get them into an overpriced home very quickly. And when those came due, suddenly it was either roll it over, and here are new terms and new amounts of interest you're going to have to pay, or, well, what are you going to do, especially if the house has declined in value. And that's why we had such a huge increase in foreclosures way back when, for those of you who
we're starting to see buy downs, which just mean that to get you in, your interest rate is 1% to 2% underneath the going rate for the first year and then the second year, or the first 3 years or 5 years. So we are seeing that.
Right. And once that rate is established and that buy down period ends, then you may have a somewhat of a shock, because your house will have increased in value, your property taxes may go up, your homeowner's insurance may go up, and suddenly you're confronted with a higher dollar amount.
But you don't have a big balloon payment, and that's what got a lot of people in that last market.
Yes. Well, we're going to talk now about the elements of pricing, of adjustments that appraisers and realtors make. And I think the biggest one, we talk about a comparable. All right, we're in a neighborhood, and there's a house down the street that's 3,000 feet. Yours is 3,300 square feet. It has 4 bedrooms or 5 bedrooms. You have 4 bedrooms. Yet it's in the neighborhood. It's very similar. There's not a tremendous variation in the housing stock in the neighborhood. And we're going to talk about what the adjustments are that an appraiser and a realtor will make in helping you price it. The first, and to my mind, the most important element is neighborhood. You know that there's a price point in the neighborhood, and if it's a $400,000 neighborhood, you're not going to get $600,000 for your house. I don't care how big it is. You're not going to get it.
Well, it's never, like the old adage, it's never good to be the biggest house.
Right.
You probably want more of the smaller house.
In the neighborhood. But there's an adjustment that is made, and that's, number one, the house that you're making an adjustment on against. And the way this is done is they never change or add to the value of your property.
Yeah.
They change or add or decrease the value of the comparable, because it's demonstrated. Yeah. So if it's less than 50 to 100 square feet, they're not going to make any difference in the valuation.
You know what? I've interesting fact about that. One of the appraisers that I spoke with, he said that actually in a townhouse, sometimes he will adjust for as small as like 50 square feet, because that's a 10 by 5 room, or and
it's a walk-in closet.
Yeah, and in a townhouse, that's much more valuable because it's got a little bit more space somewhere than it would be if he was doing 3,000 square foot homes.
Right.
So I thought that was interesting to remember when pricing a house, that townhouses, an extra 100 square feet, that's a 10 by 10 room.
Yes. And the thing is, they use varying dollar amounts per square foot, and it really depends on what the average is in the neighborhood.
Right.
Sometimes it'll be as low as $35 to $40, or as much as $125 to $200 a foot, depending upon the level of expense in the construction of the home.
Right. And see, you and I do that just a little bit differently, but both ways are right. Just like that quote that I just said. Everybody has a different way of doing it. I usually take a square footage, and if it's amount that I want to adjust, I adjust it, but I adjust it kind of considering that it's just air conditioned space, and then add on or take away value if they have a swimming pool, if they have 2 cars versus 1 car.
Yeah, there's a schedule,
right,
of what those values are that we want to touch on. But the first thing to remember is the footage counts.
It very much so.
And it's the first.
That's
it's
the number
base.
one.
And when you're doing a first pull up, if everything in the neighborhood is selling for, let's take a $200 a foot, which is not uncommon in this market.
Oh, no, not at all.
It's $200 a foot. You have a 2,000 square foot house. There's $400,000 in value right off the bat. If there's one that's 2,200 square foot, use the same number. That 200 square feet, you can increase it by $100 a foot or $200 a foot, depending. It depends on the property itself. Does it have the same bathroom count, same bedroom count, same number of rooms?
Let's talk about bedrooms for a second. Yeah. Okay, so you have a house, both of them 2,000 square feet. Right. One's a 4, one's a 3.
Right.
Do you give value to the one with 4?
Yes. Yeah,
I do too. I think because most people want a 4-bedroom.
Right now, it's $10,000 minimum. $10,000. Yeah.
Now, if it's not a common to have a 4-bedroom, or they've made their garage a bedroom or something like that, I don't give the value there.
Yeah, you can't. And an appraiser,
your garage kind of cancels out that bedroom
unless it's converted with heat and air. Now, if it's a converted garage and it's done finished,
but your 3-bedroom over here still has a 2-car or 4-car. I mean, 2-car garage. I still think that's going to kind of cancel out the bedroom.
Right. Well, look, we're coming up on a station break. You're listening to the Real Estate PB&J Hour here on Money Talk 1310 AM, 100.9 FM, and MoneyTalk1310.com. This is Paul Fuqua. I'm here with Kim Pimento. We're talking about values and valuations of properties. Please stay tuned. We'll pick up and continue our discussion in the next couple minutes when you get back. Bye.
Now back to the Real Estate PB&J Hour on Money Talk 1310 and 100.9 FM. Rosenwomble Realtor Paul Fuqua gives you the fundamentals of real estate selling, buying, owning, and improving your home.
Well, welcome back. You're listening to the Real Estate PB&J Hour. This is Paul Fuqua. I'm here with Kim Pimento. Remember, I have to go through the litany of where we are. We're on Money Talk 1310 AM and 100.9 FM or MoneyTalk1310.com. You can call us 497-1310 at area code 757-497-1310. We hope you would. And if you want to go back and see what we've said in previous shows, it's at the Real Estate PB&J Hour on whatever it is, YouTube. Okay, let's get back to the nitty-gritty of values of aspects of your house. We talked about not driveways. We talked about garages. Now, garages are very near and dear to my heart. I bought the house I'm in because it had a wonderful garage with lots of power and light and high ceilings and a storage area upstairs with fixed stairs. So it's like perfect for me and my cars. However, the driveway space versus on-street parking, there's a value there.
Yeah, about $2,000 at least. And then you also need to ask, especially in Norfolk and Portsmouth, is that a shared driveway? Because I know a lot of buyers have bought something thinking, their agent not knowing accidentally that they shared that driveway with the neighbors.
Yes.
And so that can be quite a point of contention.
With a recorded easement. I lived in one of those. Mr. and Mrs. Wagley, we shared. This was in Bethesda, Maryland, and it was a wonderful couple. They were older, and they were hoarders.
Oh, Lord.
I loved them. They were great people. Anytime I needed to borrow anything,
they probably had it all.
They had it all, and we shared this driveway.
I'd have been 20 years old, but they had it.
Hey. I could tell tales about Mrs. Wagon, but I'm not going to do that. And attached, if you got an attached garage, these are all basic, folks. These are used if you're considering this house versus that house, or if you're considering adding something. But an attached garage per space minimum is $5,000 per space. And
then probably, we've got those oversized. So you probably if you had an oversized one, you might get $4,000. If it's really got some space in there and some storage.
Or how about some of these townhouses that have the fake garage?
That
are 10 feet deep.
Yes, and that is so deceiving.
You can't put an MG in them.
Yeah, and some of them not even 10 foot deep. They're just 5 feet. It's just for bikes.
Right. Now, detached garages and pool houses, these are rough numbers. These are not, we're trying to, these are enhancements, they're termed. But a detached garage or a pool house is anywhere from $70 to $150 a foot. I've seen 90, all kinds of things.
Right. But this, I think, is definitely one where you would probably figure the square feet out. and then start adding if there's any features that you could add. You have a kitchen out there, a bathroom out there, remember, but you cannot add that onto the square foot of living space. It's a total thing. It gives you value, but it does not give you more square footage.
My garage has a half bath in it. Big deep sink.
You'd probably get about $3,000 or $4,000 for that, Paul.
Just for that. Well, I rent it out to the neighbors.
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
I sold one in Chesapeake that had an all brick, wonderful deep garage, detached garage that matched the house in architecture, and then upstairs was a finished room and full bath that the sellers had never used, but they had it built.
Well, while we're up there, let's talk about that finished room over the garages.
Well, this is a detached.
But both.
Right.
Even if you're counting square footage, though, they have to have a ceiling height.
Yes, 7 feet minimum.
Yes, and then so you have to take those knees. So in
they
some
call
of those,
them a knee wall.
Yeah, and so in some of those finished room over garages, you only have a room that's like 5 by 5. According. I mean, you could add some value because it is livable space, but technically, it doesn't give you as much square footage as you think. And same thing with those units over the detached garages.
Right.
They're like that sometimes.
But they actually can't be included in the living area of the main property.
No, anything detached. It has to be attached by a permanent heated and cooled.
Yeah, you can call it a causeway. I know,
but it can't be an open causeway.
No. It was piped in, heating and cooled, and it was about 30 feet long because it was
it out on the dock?
Yeah, no, but they were able to build, in essence, 2 houses because they had this connecting causeway.
That was a creative. That person knew their stuff.
Oh, they did. I was impressed, and that's why I sold the house. Wasn't my house. I sold it for my
Did they have decorations all the way down that hall? You put benches.
Yeah, it was like a little meeting area, or they didn't have TV in there, but they had little sitting areas along the way, and it was lighted, and it was very nice. And
that's cool. Was it on the water?
No.
Oh.
No. It was on a large piece of property that was about 20 acres. Anyway, all right. Another question. If you're talking about brick or hardy plank or stone versus vinyl wood.
Yeah, there's a value there.
Yeah, and they conservatively, it's a minimum of $2.50 per square foot. 3,000 square foot house, that's $6,000 minimum. Yet and I know that if you put brick on a house in this new construction, you're talking about a minimum of $30,000 to $40,000 in construction costs, and that may well be more. I haven't priced.
See, and I'm not really. I don't think you get as much if it's a brick veneer, which a lot of these new home sites you're seeing brick veneers.
Right. Well,
not
you get
true brick.
Those older houses. I had one in Bethesda. It was an older house built in '48, and it had Flemish brick, which is 3 levels. Basically, you're stacking bricks 3 deep.
Oh.
And so there.
I've never heard of that.
There was lathing on the backs, on the inside, and the outside. They had the weep holes as necessary, and then the substructure was all block. That house was built in 1948, and it had
look at little houses down in Florida, cinder blocks and stuff.
Well, this was all brick, Flemish brick, and it had a slate roof and copper guttering. It was an amazing house. My ex-wife got that in the divorce. So
well,
that's just.
I bartended in a house back in my college days that had copper countertops everywhere. Right. They were pretty.
Yeah, I wonder if are they safe? Are they carcinogenic?
I don't know. They were pretty. It was a cool house on the water down on the Ocean Drive, I think, in Corpus Christi, whatever that's called in there.
Anyway, they're the only minus that you see in exterior finishes is the drive-it or EIFS.
And that's a little bit of a,
that's wrong, I think.
Right. Yeah, I call
recent.
it EIFS. You call it drive-it.
Well, drive-it is
fake stucco. Is what it first
it's fake
started.
stucco. It came out of Florida. It goes perfectly on block.
And it's beautiful.
Yes, it is. But it has to be applied properly.
Correct. And it's a good product when applied properly.
When they first started using it, they were putting on houses, on framed houses over plywood without any drainage whatsoever. So if water penetrated through an opening, it would get back there and it didn't breathe. That was its advantage.
So it rotted.
It's an exterior insulation finishing system is what EIFS stands for. And that stuff is wonderful for keeping a house warm and or cool.
Yeah.
However,
like a Yeti.
You cannot let there be any water penetrations in it.
And they were getting the windows with
oh my God.
Door frames.
I owned one on a country club on a golf course, and we were very fortunate that I had it inspected regularly and caught everything anytime I.
Yeah, if you have one, I mean, in that you can paint them. I think they're very beachy,
Right.
and you can test. It's a probe, long needle looking like things. They put it in the test for moisture, so you can find out.
And it's not terribly inexpensive to fix damage, because when the damage occurs at the base of windows, you lose studs and you lose sheathing, and many times you lose the framing of the window. Unfortunately, I've seen that. And the key element is, when was it built, what was the mod, what was the actual product used, and at what time was the last time the windows or openings were caulked. That's critical. Crawl. There used to be a premium for a house built on crawl. Well, elevated slab is become more and more common.
But I think you probably would. There are some neighborhoods that have this thinner slab.
Lower slabs.
You probably, versus a crawl, you would give some value to that.
Brick fronts. Not a huge amount of $1,000 to $2,000. You had a brick front on a standard 3,000 square foot house, because I sold a bunch of those. That was as much as $15,000 in additional construction costs, and maybe more today. I don't see that many brick fronts in place. That was for a one-story. A two-story brick front versus none. Let's say your property doesn't have a brick front and 3 of them on the block do, and you're using 1 or 2 of those as a comp, then you're talking about a $2,500 to $5,000 differential that is reduced from their price. Now, when we talk about reducing, they sold at $400,000. They have a pool, you don't. So, boom, you subtract it.
Right.
Whatever the value.
Most of the time, you would not use that as a comparable unless you just had to.
Right.
You would go out and try to find one with the swimming pool.
Right. Well, the appraisers like to compare apples to apples. So if your house has a detached garage, a pool house, and a swimming pool, and is on a golf course, the comps should match that. Now, I had one of those, and we had to go out of Chesapeake into other jurisdictions to find the combination of factors to use as a comparable. And the appraisers don't like to do that.
No, but they will.
Yes.
They say if it's a unique property, they will go as far out as needed to try to get some good comp. Now, they might come back and adjust one that's in the neighborhood with the same square footage, but they do go out.
Yep. To substantiate it. But if you're in a neighborhood, let's take Courthouse Estates, which is a wonderful dicky.
You wouldn't go out of that neighborhood, I don't think.
No, you don't need to, because there's been so much activity. And I've got a house coming on in Norfolk Highlands, part of
now, that
Chesapeake.
one you might, because that's kind of a eclectic neighborhood for sure.
Well,
Norfolk Highlands.
But Norfolk Highlands, if you look at the number of sales over the past 6 months or the past year, there are enough there that you can really find true value. And an appraiser, or for that matter, in pricing it, you've got to stay within those ranges. Unless there's something absolutely spectacular about the house. The one I have is a beautiful little detached.
But at Norfolk Highlands, you do have some larger homes kind of on the water.
Yes.
And if you go across the street over to Tanglewood you've got some beautiful homes on the water, and not so, you'd probably have a hard time finding good comps for them if had nothing had sold in there for a while. If
you get into the heating and air conditioning, geothermal, which is spectacular. That's a plus 10,000 and up, because it's 3 times.
You don't see that anymore,
which is a shame because it's so efficient. There's no adjustment on water to air heat pumps versus natural gas, really, which is a norm for the area. No major adjustments.
Yeah, and that's a big issue with appraisers. Is it the norm? Is it the norm?
Right. Electric baseboard or ceiling heat, big minus.
Take away.
Individual steam radiators, another big minus.
Even though they're great to dry your sweaters on.
I grew up in houses with steam.
They're awesome. Put your clothes on there.
Yeah.
And it doesn't burn anything?
No, I don't think I'd live through that again. I mean, a house we had, my dad had it converted from coal to gas, and the coal bin stayed there for as long as we lived there. And, you couldn't go in there, and he didn't want to clean it out and had all this coal dust. He finally just walled it off and said, you guys want to go in there and play?
Use it as a slide.
There were 6 of us, a bunch of kids. These are all these elements of a property have value. And one of the reasons we bring this up is that if you're a homeowner and you're deciding what you're going to do with some of the equity you've got it, or you come into a windfall, or you have a change in your financial picture and you want to improve your house, call one of us. I just went out and met with a client, and we went over what the values are that he would be creating when he did his renovations.
Yes, often putting in the premium of any product that we can, name is not the best route, because unless you just want that for your own personal your own quality of life, you might as well put in a little bit lower end product.
If you're
not going to get any more value out of it.
You're not going to get any more value. You may get more enjoyment out of it personally.
Yeah, it's personal. You got to have quality of life.
Yes, but at the same time, you're not building the Taj Mahal.
No.
And you have to be realistic. We're coming down.
This
has gone so fast, Kim. I hope you guys out there in radio land enjoy this show as much as we do in presenting it. And I thank you, and I know I speak for Kim. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Real Estate PB&J. And we hope that you've learned a little more about the market and what you as a buyer or seller can do. And if you have questions or are interested in discussing a topic we have not covered or we would like to talk about, always call. You can call me at 757-449-7463. I'm going to give that to you again. You can text or call. It's 24 hours, 757-449-7463. Or go to my website, paulfuquayrealtor.com. On YouTube, you can subscribe to the channel, the Real Estate PB&J Hour. Costs you nothing whatsoever. And because you're hopefully listening and you've had some benefit from what we've said today, I'm offering you a free digital copy of my 31 Tips to Sell Your Home, and it highlights proven strategies that I've used to sell homes in this area. So we're going to be here next week.
Yeah, we're going to be here next week. Can I say my quote again? I really like this quote.
Please say your quote again.
Before you criticize a man, walk a mile in his shoes. That way, when you do criticize him, you'll be a mile away and you'll have his shoes. Steve Martin.
That's still not as good as the
squirrel. I think the squirrel was like, make a decision. The world is full of flat squirrels that didn't.
Yes, something along those lines.
Yeah, something along those lines.
Anyway, folks, we're saying good night. Thank you very much, Dino. We'll talk to you next week. This is Paul Fuquay, the Real Estate PB&J Hour. Bye-bye.
Have a good week.